Hello friends, welcome to Learner's Planet. Friends, this is our third session for time, speed and distance. And I'm sure you might have revised the previous two sessions and definitely you must be getting comfort level on the topic. So let's begin to take some new applications, some new problems in this session. Okay? Let's take the first problem of the session. A car can finish a certain journey in 10 hours at a speed of 48 km per hour. In order to cover the same distance in 8 hours, the speed of the car must be. Friends, do this problem mentally. Since we know the concept, speed is inversely proportional to time. That means speed into time is a constant. Okay, so here speed is 48 into time is 10 is equivalent to 8 into the new speed. Okay, so 10 into 48 is equal to 8 into x. That means x is equal to 60. Okay, no paperwork is required at all. Now let's see this question. The ratio between the speeds of two trains is 7:8. If the second train runs 400 kilometers in 4 hours, then the speed of the first train is. Friends, very simple problem. Let's try to do it mentally. The second train runs 400 kilometers in 4 hours. That means speed is 100 kilometers per hour. Okay. Now, this speed is actually 8 parts. Okay. So 8 part is 100 kilometer per hour. That means one part is 12.5 kilometer per hour. That means 7 part is 12.5 into 7. That is 87.5 kilometer per hour. So no paperwork is required at all. Now once again, very simple problem. The speeds of A and B are in the ratio 3:4. If A takes 30 minutes more than B to reach the destination, how much time does it take A to reach? Okay, now friends, since speed is inversely proportional to time, so if the ratio of speed of A and B is 3:4, then the time ratio will be 4:3. Okay, now the difference is one part, and this one part is actually 30 minutes. That means 4 part, that is the time taken by A, we have to calculate. So if one part is 30 minutes, 4 part is 120 minutes, that is 2 hours. So A will be taking 2 hours and B will be taking 1.5 hours. Okay, I hope you are clear. Now friends, you try this question. The ratio of speeds of A and B is 3:4. If B covers the distance in 36 minutes, A will cover it in what time? Okay. Now, since speed ratio is 3/4, that means time ratio will be 4/3. And if B is taking 36 minutes, that means 3 part is 36 minutes. That means 1 part is 12 minutes. That means 4 part is 48 minutes. That is the time taken by A. Okay. So I hope your answer is matching with mine. So A will be taking 48 minutes. Now let's do this question. A is twice as fast as B and B is twice as fast as C. The distance covered by C in 54 minutes will be covered by A in. Now friends, A is twice fast as B and B is twice as fast as C. So if C is taking 54 minutes to cover up that distance, that means B will be taking half of the time of C. Since B is twice as fast as C, that means B is taking 27 minutes to complete that distance, and A is twice as fast as B. That means A will be taking half the time taken by B, that is half of 27, and that is 13.5 minutes. Okay, I hope you are clear with the concept of the relationship between speed and time. I mean the inverse relationship between speed and time. Okay. Now let's see this question. Normally it takes 4 hours for a train to run from Ahmedabad to Surat. One day, because of the maintenance, the train had to reduce the speed by 12 km per hour. So it took 1 more hour than usual. What is the distance between Ahmedabad and Surat? Friends, let's assume the distance between Ahmedabad and Surat is x kilometer and the speed of the train is s. Okay. So with the speed s, it's taking 4 hours, that is with the normal speed and normal time. So the distance covered up is s into 4. Okay. And this distance is same. And if it is reducing speed by 12 kilometers per hour, so the new speed is s minus 12 and the timing is 1 more hour than usual, that means it is 5. Okay, so 4s is equal to 5s minus 60, that means s is equal to 60 kilometer per hour. Okay, and normal time it takes is 4 hours. At the speed of 60 kilometer per hour, it must cover 240 kilometer distance. That means Ahmedabad to Surat is 240 kilometer. Friends, no big logics, no big calculations are required. Just a very simple problem, a very simple concept, and you can do this problem in seconds. So if it is not required, please do not go for any sort of shortcuts and do not try to recall any sort of shortcuts in this sort of cases. Okay. Now let's take the next problem. Now let's take this question. An aeroplane covers a certain distance at a speed of 240 km per hour in 5 hours. To cover the same distance in 1 2 by 3, that is 5 by 3 hours, it must travel at a speed of. Further, the same concept, since distance is constant and speed is inversely proportional to time, speed S1 T1 is S2 T2. Now initially the speed is 240 and timing is 5 hours. Now we have to find out the new speed and timing is 5 by 3 hours. Okay. So the new speed must be 720 kilometer per hour. Okay. It's very simple problem. And friends, you can do this problem even mentally. Since this aeroplane is covering the distance, this particular distance in 5 hours with the speed of 240, that means if it has to cover that distance in 5 by 3 hours, that means if the timing is done 1/3, the speed should be done 3 times. Okay, so it should be 240 into 3, that is 720. So anyways, you can do this problem. Now try this question. A salesman travels a distance of 50 kilometers in 2 hours and 30 minutes. That is 5 by 2 hours. Okay. How much faster in kilometers per hour on an average must he travel to make such a trip in 5 by 6 hour less timings? Okay. So what is speed? It is 50 kilometer is covering in 5 by 2 hours. So his speed is 50 by 5 by 2. That means his speed is as of now 20 kilometer per hour. Okay. As of now, he is taking 5 by 2 hours to complete that particular distance, and now he wishes to take 5 by 6 hours less. So the difference is 5 by 2, that is 15 by 6, minus 5 by 6, that is 10 by 6, or we can say 5 by 3. Now he wishes to cover this particular distance in 5 by 3 hours. Okay. Now what should be speed? It is 50 by 5 by 3. That means his speed must be 30 km per hour. Earlier his speed was 20 km per hour. Now his speed is 30 km per hour. That means he should increase his speed by 10 km per hour. And in this particular question, we are asked about his present speed. So it would be 30 km per hour. Okay. Now let's take this question. A person has to cover a distance of 6 km in 45 minutes. If he covers 1/2 of the distance in 2/3 of his total time, to cover the remaining distance in the remaining time, his speed must be. Now he has to cover 6 km in 45 minutes. If he covers half, that is 3 km, he has already covered up in 2/3 of the time. That means 3 km he has covered up and he has taken 2/3 of 45 minutes. That means 30 minutes he has already taken. Now 3 kilometer he has to walk or run in 15 minutes. Definitely his speed must be double now, since earlier he was taking 30 minutes to cover up that distance. Now he has to cover that particular distance in 15 minutes only. That means the speed must be doubled. Now since we are asked his speed in kilometer per hour, that means the speed which he has to take now is 3 kilometer in 15 minutes. That means 1/4 hour. 15 minutes is 1/4 hour. So he has to cover 3 kilometers in 1/4 hour. That means his speed must be 12 kilometer per hour. Okay. So friends, no paperwork is required at all. Now friends, I hope you can try this question. A man performs 3/5 of the total journey by rail, 720 by bus, and remaining 6.5 km on foot. His total journey is. Friends, very simple question, and in fact this question doesn't belong to time, speed and distance. It is just a fraction calculation. Okay. Now let's assume, it's 3/5 of the total journey. That means here it is 7 by 20, here it is 3 by 5. That means 3 by 5 can be written as 12 by 20. Okay. So 12 by 20 of the total journey he is doing by rail. So 12 by 20 plus 7 by 20, that is 19 by 20 he has already covered up. Now he is left with 1 by 20, and that 1 by 20 is 6.5. If 1 by 20 is 6.5, 1 must be 6.5 into 20, that is 130 kilometer. Okay. So no paperwork is required at all. No time, speed, distance concept. Just a simple fraction calculation problem. Okay. Now let's try this question. A can complete a journey in 10 hours. He travels first half of the journey at the rate 21 km per hour and second half at the rate of 24 km per hour. Find the total journey in kilometer. Friends, in this particular case, the first half and the second half is the half of distance actually. Okay, just wait for a moment. Now let's assume the total distance which has to cover is 2x. Okay, so x kilometer and x kilometer. This x kilometer he is moving at 21 kilometer per hour. That means he must be taking x by 21 hours, and the remaining part he is moving at 24 kilometer per hour. That means he must be taking this much time. Okay, in all it is 10 hours. Okay, so we can calculate it. Just take LCM and get the value of x, and the total journey is 2x, so we can do it. So let's do. It's 24 plus 21, that is 45x over 21 into 24 is 10. It's 315, 37, 35, 38, 5, 2. That means x is equal to 56 into 212. That means the total length is 2x, which is 224 kilometer. Okay, it's very simple problem. Now let's see this question. Two trains start from opposite directions 200 kilometer apart at the same time. Suppose this is point A, it is point B, and it is 200 kilometer. That is the distance between them. Okay, they cross each other at a distance of 110 kilometer from one of the stations. Okay, suppose they are crossing somewhere here, and maybe this length is 110 kilometer. Then if this length is 110 kilometer, then definitely this length must be 90 kilometer. Okay, now what is the ratio of their speeds? Friends, it's very simple question. Speed is directly proportional to distance if time is constant. Okay, so speed is equal to d by t, that is distance by time. So if it is covering distance 110 kilometer and it is covering the distance of 90 kilometer, then ratio of the speed will also be the same. Okay, so it is 110 by 90, or we can say 11 by 9. Okay. Now friends, let's take some questions on relative speed. Two trains start from a place moving with 45 km per hour and 75 km per hour in the opposite direction. After how many hours will they be 1280 km apart? Now let's assume that they are starting from this particular point. And one train is moving in this direction and other train is moving in this direction. The train which is moving in this direction has a speed is 75 km per hour and this train has a speed 45 km per hour. Now friends, after 1 hour, what will be the scene? This train will be somewhere here and this train will be somewhere here. Okay, that means this train will be 75 km from this place and this train will be 45 km from this place. Okay, now after 1 hour, the distance between these two is 45 plus 75, that is 120 km, isn't it? So after 1 hour, this train has run in 1 hour, this train has run 45 km and this train has run 75 km. So the distance between them is 120 km. Now after 2 hours, the distance will between them will be 240 km. Okay, and so on. Now this 120 km is the distance between them in first 1 hour. Okay, so every hour they are getting apart by 120 km more. Okay, so in first hour they are getting apart by 120 km, then in 2 hours they are apart 240 kilometers apart, and so on. Okay, now since the trains are moving in opposite direction, the relative speed is the addition of their speeds. Okay, since they are getting apart 120 km every hour, that is their relative speed. Okay, so now how much time they will take to be 1280 km apart? So it is 1280 kilometer they have to cover, and the speed, that means they are getting apart per hour, is 120 kilometer. So they will take 32/3 hours, or we can say 10/3 hours. I hope you are clear. A very simple concept of relative speed: when the two bodies or trains or persons are moving apart in opposite direction, their relative speed is the addition of their speed. Okay, and why it is addition of their speed, that we have discussed. Okay, now friends, let's see this question. A train sets off at 2 p.m. at the speed of 70 km per hour. Another train starts at 3:30 p.m. in the same direction at the rate of 85 km per hour. At what time the trains will meet? Now, this first train is starting at 2 p.m. with the speed of 70 km per hour. Okay, so it's, suppose both of them are starting from this particular point. So the first train is starting at 2 p.m. and the other train is starting at 3:30 p.m. That means the difference between them is 1.5 hours. Okay, now the speed of this train is 70 km per hour. So before this train starts, this train might have run for 70 plus 35, that is 105 km, isn't it? Since it is running 70 km per hour, that means in 1.5 hours it will be running for 70 plus 35, that is 105 kilometers. Okay, so this is 105 kilometer. Now suppose maybe this is train A and this is train B. This is train A and this is train B. Okay, now before train B starts, the train A is already 105 kilometer far from this. Okay, now here comes the concept of relative speed. Okay, just listen to me carefully. Speed of this train is 85 km per hour and speed of this train is 70 km per hour. Okay, now when this train is starting from this place, this train is not going to stop. It is also moving in this direction. Okay, that means this train has to cover this 105 kilometer to meet this train. Okay, and this 105 kilometer cannot be covered in just 1 hour or 1.5 hours. Okay, why? Because this train is also not going to stop. Okay, that means, now let's understand over here. This train is running 70 km per hour and this train is running 85 km per hour. That means per hour this particular train is running 15 kilometers more than this train. Okay. So every hour the distance between these two trains will be lessened by 15 kilometers, isn't it? That is 85 minus 70. Okay. So every hour they will be closer by 15 kilometers. So if they have to meet, the train B has to cover this 105 kilometer. So if every hour they are getting close by 15 kilometer, so to cover 105 kilometer at this speed, it will take 7 hours. Okay, you're getting my point? That means if it is starting at 3:30 p.m., it will take 7 hours from this time. That is 10:30 p.m. The train B will meet train A. Okay. Friends, the concept we are discussing over here is the relative speed concept when two bodies are moving in the same direction. Okay. So in this case, their speed, that is 70 and 85, difference between them, that is 15 km per hour, is the relative speed. Or in other ways, we can say it to be gaining speed, that is the extra speed of B than A. Okay, so 15 km per hour is a gaining speed, that is per hour B is moving 15 kilometers more than A. Okay, so let's do more questions on relative speed now. Now you try this problem and then match your solution and answer with mine. A starts walking from a place at 7 a.m. at a speed of 10 km per hour. At 7 a.m. at 10 km per hour. At 9 a.m. B starts from the same place walking in the same direction at the speed of 15 km per hour. Okay. When will they meet? Now A is starting at 7 a.m. and B starting at 9 a.m. That means before B starts, A might have run for 2 hours and his speed is 10 km per hour. That means in 2 hours he might have run for 20 kilometers. Okay, suppose it is 9 a.m. now, and this is the place of from where they are starting. So at 9 a.m. B will be here and A will be here, and the difference between them, or we can say distance between them, is 20 kilometers. Okay, now once again, if B starts walking from this place simultaneously, it is assumed that A is also walking. That means A is also not going to stop. Okay. Now A will be moving with the speed of 10 km per hour and now B is moving with the speed of 15 km per hour. Okay, just try to understand the concept of relative speed. Friends, every hour this guy B is running 5 km extra than A. Okay, B is running 5 km extra than A. Now B has to run 20 km extra than A to meet him. Okay, so per hour he is running 5 km extra. So to run 20 km extra, he should walk for 4 hours. That means he's starting at 9 a.m. So after 4 hours, it is 1 p.m. He's going to meet A. Okay. Friends, two things are to be considered over here. That is, what is the difference between their starting time and what is their speeds. Okay, so here the difference between their starting time is 2 hours and their speeds are 10 and 15. That means gaining speed of B is 5 km per hour and he has to cover 20 kilometers, so he'll take 4 hours to meet A. Okay, so I'm sure you can do this problem mentally once you are conceptually clear. Okay, now let's try the next problem. Now friends, once again the similar question. the question on relative speed when two bodies are moving in the same direction. And I'm sure that from the previous questions you might have understood the logic of relative speed. Okay, so in this particular question we are not going to do any sort of paperwork. Okay, train leaves Delhi at 9 a.m. at the speed of 30 km per hour, and another train leaves at 2 p.m. at the speed of 40 km per hour. Now, what is the relative speed, or we can say the gaining speed of this particular train is 10 km per hour. Okay, now just we have to find out how far from Delhi will the two trains meet. Now, this train is starting at 9 a.m. and the other one is at 2 p.m. So, what is the difference between their starting time? It is 5 hours. So, before this train starts, this train might have run for 5 hours. In 5 hours, it might have run 30 into 5, 150 kilometer. Okay, that is 30 kilometer per hour. Okay, now before this train starts, this train is already 1 kilometer far from this train. Now this train has to cover this 150 kilometer, okay, to meet this particular train. Now once again, this train is also not going to stop. That means we have to find their relative speed, or we can say the gaining speed of this particular train. Every hour it is gaining 10 kilometer. So to gain 150 kilometer, it has to run for 15 hours. Okay. Now in this question, we have to find how far from Delhi these trains are going to meet. So definitely after 15 hours, this train is going to meet this train. So in 15 hours, this train might have run 600 kilometers. That is 40 kilometer per hour for 15 hours. Okay. So they are going to meet at 600 kilometer from Delhi. Okay, very simple problem, very simple concept. If you are conceptually clear about relative speed, nothing can stop you. Okay. Now friends, once again we are taking the question on relative speed. Friends, I would appreciate if you try this question on your own and match your solution and answer with mine. Okay, so just pause the session and try on your own. Two men starting from the same place walk at the rate of 5 km per hour and 5.5 km per hour respectively. What time will they take to be 8.5 km apart if they walk in the same direction? That means they are starting from the same point, same time. Okay. Now, what is the gaining speed of this person? It is half kilometer per hour. Okay. Since every hour this person is walking half kilometer more than this particular person. So every hour they are getting apart by half kilometer. So the difference of 8.5 kilometer will be achieved in 8.5 by 0.5, that is in 17 hours. Okay. So it's very simple problem. No paperwork is required at all, and I'm sure your answer is matching with mine. Now let's take some more problems on the similar concept. Now further, try the question on your own. A walks at 4 km per hour and 4 hours after his start. B cycles after him at 10 km per hour. How far from the start does B catch up with A? Further, friends, we are not going to use any sort of paper and pen over here. A is walking at 4 km per hour. That means in 4 hours, he might have run for 16 kilometers. Okay. So before B starts, A is 16 kilometers away from that particular place. Now, what is the gaining speed of B? That is 6 km per hour. That means to gain 16 kilometer, it has to run for 16 by 6 hours. Okay. And what is his speed? It is 10 km per hour. So this is the time and this is the speed. So we'll be getting the distance from the start where B will catch up with A. Okay. So it is 80 by 3 kilometers. That is something around 26.7 kilometer. Okay. Friends, I'm sure your answer is matching with mine. And friends, you must be wondering that how simple the concept of relative speed is. Okay, once you are conceptually clear, I'm sure you can do this problem in seconds in your exams. Okay, so let's take some more problems. Now let's see a very simple application of relative speed concept. A thief is noticed by a policeman from a distance of 200 meters. The thief starts running and the policeman chases him. The thief and the policeman run at the rate of 10 km and 11 km per hour respectively. What is the distance between them after 6 minutes? Okay. Now friends, initially they are at the distance of 200 meters. This person is running at 10 km per hour and it is the policeman is running at 11 km per hour. Now what is the gaining speed of the policeman? That is 1 km per hour. Okay. That means the policeman is running 1 kilometer more than the thief in 1 hour. Okay. That means 1000 meters he is running more than the thief in 1 hour. That means in 6 minutes he'll be running 100 meters more than thief. Okay. So initially the distance between them is 200 meters. That means after 6 minutes, the policeman might have run 100 meters more than this particular person, I mean thief. That means now the distance between them is 100 meters only. Okay. Now you try this question. A thief steals a car at 2:30 p.m. and drives it at 60 km per hour. The theft is discovered at 3 p.m. and the owner sets off in another car at 75 km per hour. When will he overtake the thief? Further, very simple question, and I'm sure you can do it. Friends, the thief is starting at 2:30 and the owner is starting at 3 o'clock. So in half an hour, with the speed of 60 km per hour, the thief might have covered 30 kilometers. That means before the owner starts, the thief is already 30 km ahead from the starting point. Okay. Now, what is the gaining speed of this owner? It is 15 km per hour. And he has to gain 30 km to catch the thief. So in 2 hours, he'll be able to catch him. So at 3 p.m. he is going to start. That means he can overtake the thief in at 5 p.m. That is 2 hours after 3 p.m. Okay, so it's 5 p.m. I'm sure you are clear and your answer is matching with mine. Friends, you might have observed that there is no paperwork required. I didn't touch any paper and pen in solving this question. Okay. Now let's try this question. Two cyclists start from the same place in opposite direction. One goes toward north at 18 km per hour and other goes towards south at the speed of 20 km per hour. What time will they take to be 47.5 km apart? Since both of them are starting from the same place in opposite direction, so every hour this person is running for 18 km and this person is running for 20 km. So every hour they are getting apart by 38 km. Okay. I'm sure I don't have to draw the diagram over here. Just for the sake of clarity, I'm doing it. It's 18 km in this direction and this person is moving 20 km in this direction. Okay. So after 1 hour, they will be 38 km apart from each other. Okay. So we have to find the time when they are 47.5 km apart from each other. Okay. So 38 is per hour. That means in 2 hours they will be 76 kilometers apart. That means the time is from 1 to 2 hours and there is only one option among these when the answer is between 1 and 2. So we don't have to go for the full calculation, just mark the answer, that is 1 by 4 hours. Okay, I'm sure you are clear. Friends, I hope you might have understood the concept of relative speed. We'll be taking more such problems in our next session. Till then, do revise this particular session. Okay, bye-bye.